guys, this is Tamer from F the Track. And this afternoon I wanted to do something a little bit different from the standard kind of content on the page. I wanted to do an ownership review, a buyer's guide, and a track review all in one video. I thought it'd make it a little bit kind of different and something kind of unique, basically. So basically I'm just going to start from the beginning. I've owned my car. This is a 2010 Lexus ISF. I've owned my car now, I believe, for 42,000 miles. I've had 19 track days on the car, excuse me. So I've, you know, I've had a decent amount of time basically to kind of feel the platform out and kind of see what it's about basically here. So I wanted to share that with you guys, is what, you know, is with the owners who are planning maybe to go to the track basically, as well as some of the people out there just fans of the car, or maybe somebody who's just thinking about maybe picking up one, which I think is a good idea. Do it. So anyways, I just wanted to start from the beginning. Like I said, I've owned the car for 42,000 miles. I've done 19 track days. In terms of, let's start from the bad stuff, basically. In terms of issues with the car doesn't have very many, but I'll give you basically what I've had. Most cars are going to have recalls, okay? That's the standard kind of stuff, basically. I've had 2 recalls with the car, obviously covered by Lexus, no issue. I believe one was a fuel system recall, and another one had to do with the cooling system. I don't know exactly what they were, but I can look them up for you and put them in the content section basically here. But no big deal, they were covered under warranty. Now, one, I'd say solid issue that I did have that would cost owners money if they didn't have warranty, or if they bought a car off warranty. Luckily enough, I had warranty on my car basically. I have the Lexus Extra Care, which I bought just to extend the factory warranty through the manufacturer, which I always prefer ideally. But the issue that we're having, and we're actually seeing pop up a little bit more than I'd like to kind of admit, it's obviously not everybody, but they're out there, is this valley plate leak that we're finding. So what owners are finding, you know, as the cars age, let's say over 50,000, 60,000 and up, we're starting to find that, you know, you put the cars up on the rack, you lift them up, and there's coolants basically, which is bright pink and dry, but very, very easy to spot, luckily, basically. You're going to find leaking from the base of the engine, or it's from the valley plate leaking down to the base, so it's pretty easy to spot. Now the fix is either going to be covered under warranty, or if you're a handy kind of guy, you might want to be able to, you can do it yourself. I had my service plan take care of it for me, but I have heard through the grapevine and some of the forums basically, for the guys who didn't have it covered under warranty, we're talking like $2 grand. Maybe even a little bit more. Some people have actually managed to have Lexus kind of go in with them and split the cost, which is kind of cool if you can get that done. Depends on how far over your factory warranty is basically over the standard factory 50, I think, or 60, I believe it is. Now, in terms of servicing the ISF, I always do my servicing at the dealership. You know, to each his own. Some guys are a little bit more handy; they have a little bit more time. I'm not one of those guys. I'm the opposite, basically. I've got less time and maybe more, you know, more funds to take care of that stuff, because I don't have the confidence to do it, and I don't have the time to even learn to do it. So I just pay somebody to take care of it. So when I take my car to the Lexus dealership locally, and you know the price is obviously going to vary. My standard, let's say, oil change, which is going to run me every, you know, I do mine every 5,000 miles, which is, you know, as directed by Lexus. It runs me generally, let's say, I think it's 140 bucks, I want to say. Maybe even a little bit more, it just depends basically. But what I do like is I drop the car off, oil change gets done, and when you complain about the price, generally what they're going to say to you basically is the reason we charge so much is because we don't charge for oil change, we charge for service. So alright, fine, they do their checks, that kind of a thing basically. But anyways, runs about anywhere, let's say realistic, from 140 to 170, depending on your Lexus dealership. That's for every 5,000 miles. Now you can obviously take it to you know, a smaller shop, maybe do it yourself, that kind of thing, save quite a bit of money. The 30,000 mile services, at least in my experience, are running about 500 bucks. And then the big 60, which is the massive one that they do everything on, that ran me, I believe it was $1,075, so close to $1,100 to have that done. I know some people, I mean, in the bigger cities and they're commuting with these cars, they might actually care about gas mileage. I really don't give a damn. But for those who do care, I drive my car pretty aggressively, and I do city and highway mixed, mostly highway though, but I live in an urban area excuse me, kind of on the edge of the city, basically, not so much urban. But we have a lot of open highways here, so I tend to do a lot more, let's call it higher speed, right? Let's say 68 as opposed to 65, basically. So I get close to maybe 15 miles to the gallon. It's not that great. It's not what I would, it's nothing I complain about personally. The car is, pushing over 400 horsepower. It's a 5-liter V8. And, if you're shooting for gas mileage, man, buy a 350, to be honest. I'm just from me to you, just my own opinion. I don't want to insult anybody out there. But, if you're looking for a car that's going to get 22 miles a gallon, I know it is possible in this thing. I've heard people on the forums mention that kind of stuff. I have no fucking clue how anybody gets 22 miles to the gallon unless they're just straight up open highway for, an hour straight, and you're either on the phone or you're listening to music constantly. You don't give a shit about really driving the car. Or pushing it, basically. So again, to each his own. In terms of the guys out there who are thinking about maybe buying an ISF, so this is the buyer's guide section of the review I wanted to do for you guys. These cars are pretty rare. They obviously didn't sell, as massively well as the M3s basically here, which I think makes them, in my opinion, a little bit more special. That's just one of the things that makes the car a little bit more special, basically, than the standard, Euro, super sedans that you see out there, especially the older ones. There's only 5,118 Lexus ISFs sold in the United States, so again, very, very rare. A big chunk of those cars are going to be the first 2 years, especially the 08s, but the 08s and 09s are the most common years, or the bigger numbers sold, basically, the bigger chunk of the 5,100 and change, basically, that's sold out there. They're great cars, very, very strong motors, reliable cars, great suspensions, great handling, but like any other first generation, first couple of model year cars, they do have their, we'll call them the teething issues, basically, kind of those initial issue things that come out, and certain things also dynamically, or certain things about the car that the owners might not like. It gets back to Lexus and they do some tweaks. So let's start with those, basically. The 08s and 09s, again, being the more common or the bigger chunk of the ISF population out there, they do have, we'll call them well-known water pump issues, basically, or water pump leaks. So they do tend to leak. You're going to find, basically, when you take the hood up, or lift the hood up, basically put a flashlight straight down in it, right in the front, you're going to see the pink fluid leaking down. It's pretty easy. Thankfully, Lexus uses this light fluorescent pink coolant, so very easy to catch. The other thing that is pretty common with the earlier model years are going to be the melting dash issues, basically. Some of them in some of the hot states, and some cars, with some of the owners are finding is that the dash and the top of the door panels, actually even the side of the door panels, basically starts to get kind of tacky, and it starts to actually look like it's starting to melt, like it starts to degrade, basically. So it looks like shit, feels like shit. So something to watch out for, basically. Some of the cars were taken care of under warranty. It doesn't seem like Lexus is doing much for them now, basically, afterwards. So if you're going to look for, again, they're going to be the more common ones, and they're going to also be, obviously, because they're older, they're going to be a little bit easier to get into in terms of pricing. But they're going to have, that's one thing to look out for. Just always check the door panels, check the top of the dash to look for any melting, basically. Also, in terms of handling, it's subtle, and especially if you're not going to be on the track, basically. But the earlier model years didn't have a limited slip differential, so I don't know. I do think it's an issue. Personally, I bought this car after owning an LS 460 for 3.5 years, specifically to go to the track. So I didn't want to get one of the model years that didn't have, basically, let's put it this way, the appropriate track suspension. So I ended up doing the 2010 in terms of my budgeting, and then also I could get basically a good model year that had a limited slip differential. So the 2010s were the years where they got upgraded limited slip. You also had some changes to the infotainment, which is kind of nice. You can stream your music and that kind of a thing. I kind of like that. I don't have to mess with my iPod anymore. Basically, everything's right from my phone, and there's no wires, basically. Now, the 2011 probably had the most significant year changes. Basically, with 2011, you got upgraded headlights. They changed the dash out, kind of the outlay, basically, or the way everything looks. You've got, instead of a tach on the right and then a speedometer on the left, it's kind of more, I don't know, sports car-like, basically. We'll call it a Porsche-like, where you just have this huge center-mounted tach, and then you've got a digital readout for the speed, as well as a really small speedometer. I personally was shopping when I bought mine for the 11s and the 10s. I didn't like that at all. I want to see how fast I'm going, basically a little easier than that. So I was kind of turned off by that. Also, I live in the hills. The 2010s have the directional headlights. The 2011s lost the directional headlights, but then they got the cool, you know, front end, more modern looking Nike light is what they're calling them basically here. Again, up to you. With me, I found the 2010s were a little bit cheaper. It had the limited slip, and it didn't have, for me, the funky dash, so I didn't want to do that, and it worked out in the end. But the 2011s also do have some significant suspension modifications. I mean, we're not talking a revolution, but they did try and make it a little bit more refined. I think because most of the owners of the 2009, 2010 cars, including every reviewer who's ever reviewed the car, is always complaining about the super harsh ride. And yes, the car does ride a bit harsh, basically, especially compared to an M3. They're both going to be harsh. This one, it feels like a little bit bouncier. It just feels, I'm not going to say overly damped, but heavily damped, basically. So if you live in an area that's got bad roads or some pretty shitty surfaces to drive on, you know, you might like it, your girlfriend or mom's not going to like it, basically, or your dad probably like it, if you guys are out there running around having some fun and messing around in the car. But again, yeah, it is a big complaint. So I find that a lot of the suspension tweaks, when you really look into them, it was supposed to be for more confidence and inspiration, basically, on the track. I find that or what I'm reading basically online, and again, we'll have to take that with a grain of salt, is that the shocks are 10 to 20% stiffer, depending on the valving, the speed, as well as the spring rate coming down 5%. So I'm not 100% on that information, but that's what I'm